Question: is it time to do some remodeling in your life? I'm John Tisdale, and today I want to talk about just that very thing, remodeling your life. But I want to put it within the context of a project I've been working on, which is completely revamping my studio here. I have a fairly small bedroom that's 10 by 12 feet, and that's the only space that I have for doing my YouTube videos. And so I've previously been using this space in a pretty inefficient way, to where I had one set and I had pretty limited options. And at the same time, I had so many lights on tripods. I had my camera on a tripod. I had probably 5 lights, and then power, and I ended up not being able to even walk through the room. It was like it was this maze, and to get from one end to the other, it was a trip hazard. And so I constantly found myself having so much inefficiency, because I would start a recording, then realize I needed to do something across the room, run across the room without falling and tripping. It just made it really inefficient for doing what I want to do. And so I wanted to redesign the studio in a way that gave me a lot more flexibility and increased the efficiency of my workflow. So that's what I set out to do. And also I wanted to switch from just having one set to having 3. And so that's what I've done here. So over here on this side, I have my computer set up with the tech, and that was traditionally the only set that I had in here. And then this one behind me is this larger space that gives me the ability to have 2, 3, and maybe even 4 people on set. And that's because I have several things in mind that I want to do to increase the number of channels that I have. Particularly, my wife's a worship leader, and she and I have given a lot of our lives over the last 20 years or so training people in worship and equipping them. And so we were in the process of getting another channel started up for that. And so I needed a space for 2 to 3 people. And then over in the corner, you see that here I've got another space behind me, which is just a small study. And the idea there is that I want to give some Bible studies. And so I just want to have a cozy little corner where I can just shoot some videos of just me by myself. So now I've got all 3 of these sets created behind me, and then I have my camera here, and I can just pan it between these 3 sets. So I feel like that gives me a lot of efficiency. And then I had to solve the lighting problem, and what I wanted to do was to find a way to get all of these off of the floor and up on the ceiling. So I began experimenting with some ideas, and I ultimately came down to just 2 options. One, I either purchase a professional light truss system, and those are a bit expensive. By the time I did the totals, I was looking at $2,000 to $3,000 probably to do a room this size, to give me all the space that I was looking for. And they're fairly large, and so a lot of money, and not very space efficient. So I've also been toying with the idea of wanting to do something with this corner behind me. I wanted to create something that could either give me some shelves or just some visual aesthetics to just liven up that kind of dead space in the corner. So I ended up combining multiple ideas into one. So I have the aesthetics of this system I built behind me, which is made entirely of black iron pipe or black steel pipe. And so that's just plumbing parts, 1-inch plumbing parts that I've screwed together to create this column. And so it gives me, I think, an interesting visual effect. I enjoy interior design, and so in my living room, I've created a lot of industrial / steampunk looks. And so I like that look, and I created a few pieces downstairs in my living room out of this plumbing pipe. And so I decided just to experiment with that. And so you see that here. And then I wanted to double that up and make it more functional. So I made that the primary support for the light truss system. It took quite a lot of work. Even building this one column piece, I spent 2 days getting that built together. It's a lot more work. There's a lot of math involved in determining the way things can go on and can't go on. I ended up making a mistake, and when I got to put the top on, lo and behold, it wouldn't thread on, and so I ended up having to take it apart and do it all over again. So I ended up spending 4 whole days just getting this column tweaked. just right. And I wanted it to be solid so that I could support everything that I have in terms of my lighting concepts, to be able to be supported by that piece. And so once I had that in place, I then began laying all of these grids of pipe in place across the room. I have 10-foot ceilings, and so that gave me the ability to mount all the lights up at 9 feet. And so using a lot of measurement and experimentation, I was able to create this grid pattern so that this lighting system has multiple supports down to the floor and onto the walls in the least amount of space that I could come up with. And it turned out just great. And I've hung a wide variety of lights on there. It's been able to handle everything that I have put on it perfectly. And so I feel like that's a good foundation. It took a lot of work, a lot of time. I ended up spending probably 2 weeks mainly getting those pipes all built and interconnected, and then getting the lighting systems mounted on top of it. So it's been quite a bit of work, but I feel like it really achieved the result that I'm after. And now I'm able to come in. There's nothing on the floor except for my camera tripod. I'm even toying with some ideas of maybe eventually moving that camera, supporting it off of the ceiling trusses at some point, but that's for another project. I'm kind of project out now after working on this for so long. So I feel like this has achieved the results that I'm after. And one of the other pieces that I wanted to bring into it is some backdrops. And so you see behind me, I took some barn wood and hung, and so that gives a lot of rich textures. And at the same time, it solves one of the problems that you have with a rectangular room where you have a lot of 90-degree walls, and that's what's known as combing, where sound hits and vibrates off of all of the surfaces and kind of muddies the sound. So the rough textures there will help absorb and deflect the sound. I've also put up 3 acoustic panels around the room that also absorb sound, and I utilize the books to also, in a way that it breaks up a lot of the surface areas. So instead of having a lot of 90-degree walls, I've broken it up with a lot of different types of texture so that it gives me a lot better audio control and eliminate artifacts that are difficult to work with in editing. And so in terms of the backdrop, I created that to begin with, and then I began experimenting with using some of Savage's rolling backdrops. I chose the 107-inch, which works perfectly in this space because it gives me the ability to put it sideways here in my 10-foot section. That's basically a 9-foot roll, and then with a little bit of space on each end to have the rolling mechanisms, the support mechanisms. And so I bought a triple roll hanger for one side with chains so that I can easily pull down and bring those up in just a matter of seconds, so I can switch the background easily. So I've got a 3-roll on this side, and then I mounted another system over here behind me on this wall. So if I want to, I can utilize this barnwood effect with a lot of texture, or I can bring down 3 other colors of rolls. And so that basically gives me 4 options behind me, the wood and 3 roll colors, and then 3 roll colors over there. So combine those 3 with these 4, that gives me a dozen options for combinations of colors. So that really gives me a lot of richness to play around with. And I feel like that's going to give me a variety of set mixes so that I can change things up on a regular basis. Just a lot of opportunity for diversity and flexibility. So I'm really excited about this space. Love to get your feedback on what you think about it. I've mounted my 43-inch monitor on the wall so I can have a preview monitor. And then I've upgraded my computer monitor here with a 38-inch that gives me pretty much a 4K monitor. So it's great for my workstation workflow. So overall, this studio, I think, gives me a lot of what I'm looking for in terms of flexibility, nice looks and textures and tones, plus the efficiency to be able to come in, shoot, do the editing, and move on. As I've been going through the process of all this remodeling, I've been very intentional to think about what is representative of this new season of my life. What do I bring into it, and what do I get rid of because it no longer fits? And particularly, I'm recording this in this COVID season, and in this time, it's this perfect opportunity where all of our normal routines are being disrupted, and we've had to rethink: how do we buy groceries? How do we get entertainment? How do we socialize? And so it's a perfect opportunity for us to really lay everything out before the Lord and just say, Lord, I want to get rid of whatever will not take me into this new season. I think of my friend Graham Cook, who says we have baggage and we have luggage. The baggage is what we bring from our past that holds us down, and our luggage is what we pack for the future into where we're going. And we all have to reevaluate, kind of unpack all of our baggage and say, what was good in the past but is no longer needed or no longer even helpful as I move into this new place, this new season, and get rid of all that baggage and repack our luggage to where for what we need based on where we're going. So I've been doing a lot of that myself and trying to ask myself some tough questions, and even spiritually, where have I become so stuck in form instead of relationship? Where do I need to cut off that old thing to make room for what's really going to produce life? And so those are some things that I've been looking at, and I'd love to hear from you. What have you been seeing that needs to change, that needs remodeling in your life? Because I feel like we all need one another, sharpening one another and causing us to really probe deeper and say, what's available in the kingdom that I haven't tapped into, and I'm not even able to tap into based on how I've been making choices in the past, and my thought patterns and my thought life, and how I'm utilizing time and opportunities. Because if we keep doing what we've been doing, we know we're going to get the same results we've been getting. And none of us want to stay stuck where we've been in the past. We want to advance. And so that requires us to consider what isn't needed for our future, and maybe what that once was luggage is now baggage. And we need to just repack and be willing to toss out, to go through our closet where we get rid of those old clothes that we're not wearing anymore, or even the furniture that doesn't fit or is worn out. How do we do that spring cleaning spiritually so that we can make real progress, meaningful progress? Sometimes that involves us just having to rethink everything and being willing to just lay down everything that we've valued in the past, to be able to put that on the altar and just say, Lord, I want whatever you're bringing now. I want the fresh revelation of who you are, and I want to posture my life so that I'm not living out of the old revelation, but instead I'm getting the fresh manna. I'm not bottling up the manna from yesterday. And that was one of the things that the Lord was trying to teach us from that whole Exodus season, is he wouldn't allow the Israelites to store up that manna. It would rot. And instead, they had to get fresh manna every day except for the Sabbath. And so in a lot of ways, we find ourselves feasting on that old manna that's rotting, and it's just no longer producing life and giving us the nourishment we need to grow. So I'm finding all kinds of ways where I realize I'm just so a creature of habit that I get in these spaces where I sit down on the couch and I start watching TV, or how I interact with my wife has gotten stuck into ruts, and I need to change that up. And that's one of the things that I've been working with, and with my wife, just saying, hey, how I've been interacting with you isn't enough. I'm not, even though we might be sitting in the same room, I'm not getting eye contact, and I'm not really having a heart-to-heart encounter with you. So I want to change that. And so even how we interact on a daily basis, I feel like that's all being shaken up, because I need to change that, lest it becomes so lifeless that it's just not producing, it's not heading us into the direction that we want to go, which is more abundant life. So I'd love to hear from you. What do you guys think? What are you experiencing? What areas are you needing to remodel in? I'd love for us as a community to just look at some of those areas and talk about them and figure out, how do we challenge one another to grow and to not be stagnant in who we've been in the past? Well, thanks for watching. Hope you consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Facebook, I'll put a link in the comments below where you can subscribe to the channel, help grow it, like the video so that other people can have a higher likelihood of seeing it. Click the bell icon if you want to be notified when I publish new content. Share the video would be great. Thanks for watching. Hope to talk to you again soon. And just to demonstrate what I've set up in my studio, I'll end with this. Hey Google, turn off TV set lights.
Got it. Turning off 7 outlets.
Hey Google, turn off studio lights.